You're watching the award-winning GHS-TV, a nationally recognized student television station.
Hello, and welcome to this week's edition of GHS-TV's award-winning talk show, Crosstalk. I'm your host, Jamaia Chase. Each week in this time slot, we take a look at different issues, personalities, and events that affect you and our community. The fall theater season is in full swing right now, and it all kicked off with the Ostrander Awards back in August. This week, we'll be getting a sneak peek of some of the productions to come. But first, I'm excited to introduce our first guest today. Elizabeth Perkins was the coordinator for the 2019 Ostrander Awards, and Kim Sanders received the award for Best Leading Actress in a Drama for her role in Sweat at Circuit Playhouse. Ms. Perkins and Ms. Sanders, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having us.
Ms. Perkins, the Memphis Theater Awards have been around for more than 30 years. Mm-hmm. How did it start?
So we celebrated our 36th year this year. Back in 1984, essentially Ken Neal, who is the publisher of Contemporary Media, said we need a way to celebrate the theater in Memphis. And so he and Janie McCrary, who was at what is now Arts Memphis, got together and figured out a way to do awards for the theaters. Back then it was 6 or 7 judges. They saw the shows, they met in Janie's living room and deliberated the entire evening until they could hand out some awards. And it took a lot of different forms over the years. It's been housed at Rhodes, it's been at the Botanic Gardens, and now we're very, very fortunate that we're at the Orpheum, which is such a beautiful place to have that event and celebrate Memphis theater.
Well, in the early 2000s, the official name of the Ostrander Awards changed in honor of Jim Ostrander. Mm-hmm. Well, who was he?
Jim was a wonderful, wonderful man whose wife is actually the reason I am a stage manager today. Shirley was my very first stage manager to work with. Jim was a great actor who was known for particularly his vocal talents in Memphis theater, and unfortunately passed away from cancer at far too young of an age, at only 53, I think. And so he had been the recipient of the Ugar-Arian Lifetime Achievement Award, which they did not want to rename, so they went to renaming the entire award ceremony in his honor.
Well, Ms. Perkins, how do you select participants for the awards?
For the judges or for the winners, like Kim here?
Both.
Both. Okay. So judges, we have 19 judges in the community division, and so they see all of the community and professional shows in Memphis theater from eligible organizations. And then we have 9 college judges. So we do all collegiate, community, and professional theater in Memphis. And that's an extensive selection process and training process. They usually apply. We'll have a meet and greet. I have 7 administrative judges who've been around for years and years who review the applications with me, do an interview, and then decide whether to take on that judge. And then we spend several months training them. On the flip side of that, once we get to where kind of Kim comes into play here, is throughout the year, the judges will complete surveys. So they're assigned shows. There are some judges that see every single show. There are some who see just certain shows, and they will fill out a survey. We take those results and give them a ballot, so to speak, at the end of the year. And they don't have to go from that ballot. It's a jumping off point. And we literally have a 10-hour meeting the last Saturday in July. And the judges go all day and debate every single show. And they look at all of the lighting and sound and sets and acting and really push each other to consider different aspects of that production to make their final selections.
Well, Ms. Sanders, as I mentioned before, you won this year for your role in Sweat. Well, what were your thoughts when your name was first announced?
When my name was first announced, I thought maybe they misspelled somebody else's name. That was not on my radar at all. And I do not say that like, oh my gosh, I was so excited to win. It was not. I was completely not prepared for that. So I was sitting in the back of the theater next to a friend and his wife, had my purse and my phone on my lap, cross-legged, and was prepared to just sit and clap for whoever it was. So I really kind of went blank for a second, and saw my name and then kept walking, and it didn't hit me until I got back to my seat. But it was more because of that show was a very, very gritty, dark show, and sometimes things like that aren't the most yay things to give awards to, even though good performances were there. So I was very, very happy about the entirety of it. I almost didn't come because I was getting sick, which I'm glad I did, because Sweat was nominated for Ensemble, which I really hoped we got, but it was more of a shock. And it was actually the first time that I'd sat down and it enveloped me. Like they say, I was overcome with emotion, that sort of thing, and not to be cheesy, but it did. I had to get up for a minute. I was like, what is this feeling? Because it was about the work. Because it's not about the award, it's about the work. You can't ever go into it looking for the award or looking for the accolades. You have to go in it through the grit and the work and finding that character. So it kind of went full circle because I had to go really deep. She wasn't a nice character, no. And she disintegrated scene by scene as you watched it happen. So it was more of a really lovely feeling of it being the respect of the work that was done. So,
well, what do the Ostrander Awards specifically mean to you?
What did the Ostrander, like I said, it really is all about the work. The Ostranders are great. It's a wonderful time for everybody to get together because in the community, we've got Theater Memphis and Playhouse on the Square, which encompasses Circuit and Theater Works. But we also have smaller theater companies too, like New Moon and Cloud 9 and Emerald. So there's a lot of different things where we don't always get to be in the same room together because we're always running shows at the same time, So it's a nice time to be able to mingle in a sense of that, and then just kind of communally support everybody. Though sometimes it does get to be like a football game. Sometimes, we don't want it to be rival. You want it to be, what's that saying? All high water floats all boats, or something like that. That we're all coming together to lift everybody up. But so it's a nice once a year thing where I get stressed out about dresses that I don't have and what to wear, and then hope I make it on time. So that's
Well, Ms. Sanders, what are some of the rewards as well as the challenges you may face in local theater?
Memphis has an amazing, really thriving theater community, which you don't find everywhere, and I think people underplay that and underestimate it when they get here. We basically have a theater district. The Square is now, we've got Playhouse on the Square, we've got Hattie Lou, we've got Circuit, we've got Theater Works, we've got Ballet Memphis there, so it really is thriving a lot more than some people would realize. But I mean, just like everything else, it is wonderful when good things happen. It's heartbreaking when things don't. I mean, being an actor is, I think they usually say about 9 out of 10 auditions you go to, you don't get, and the one you do. But it's the work that's rewarding for me. Everybody goes in for something different, and everybody's different that goes into it. I may seem very extroverted right now, but I'm really an introverted person. So all of our goals are the same, but for me, it's always been the work. It's the only thing I've ever wanted to do, and I've always kind of been on an island of misfit toys, if anybody knows that reference. Kind of always a little bit on the outside of everything. I've never quite fit in. And the only place that I really do feel like I fit in is when I'm on stage, as bumper sticker as that sounds, but it's true.
Well, Ms. Perkins and Ms. Sanders, it was a pleasure having you on the show today.
Thank you.
Coming up, we'll talk with the faces of some of the most popular theater companies around the area. We'll be right back.
We see the potential in every single student.
That sounds like a confession to me.
I love watching these kids as they start as freshmen in high school and watching them mature and grow.
At last, my right arm is complete again!
The theater program at GHS, it's something special.
Is very intensive, it's very interactive.
When a student starts here their freshman year, they start with Introduction to Theater. And after that year, they have a choice to either go into acting or technical theater. And then after that, they join our production workshop class. It's the class that is completely run by students.
The students do mostly everything. We build the sets, we do lighting, we make the costumes, we do the shows.
It's very fun. I mean, everybody's very supportive of each other.
Now we're all in this together.
It's taught me so much about how to act and how to have a stage presence.
Not only are we teaching the students the skills that they need to be a great performer or a great stage manager or a wonderful lighting designer, we're teaching them skills that they're going to be able to apply to whatever they do in their life.
You guys are fabulous!
This department not only makes wonderful theater, but more importantly, this department makes wonderful people.
For more information about the Kappa program, visit ghskappa.com or call 755-7775. You're watching the award-winning GHS-TV, a nationally recognized student television station.
Welcome back to Crosstalk. This week, we are focusing on Memphis' thriving theater community. Joining me now is Marcus Cox, Director of Community Relations at Playhouse on the Square, and Lawrence Blackwell, Director of Programs from Hattie Lou Theater. Mr. Cox and Mr. Blackwell, thank you for being here today.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Mr. Cox, you have a lot of great shows on your list this year.
Yes.
What are you most excited for?
Well, Playhouse on the Square is celebrating its 50th anniversary of professional live theater in Memphis and the Mid-South. And right now, we are full of shows. Going into our holiday season, we will be returning for its 28th year Peter Pan, also Junie B. Jones the musical, as well as a one-woman show by our resident company member Kim Sanders called The 12 Dates of Christmas. And then the second half of our season will begin in January. And even though the Memphis' bicentennial will be completed, we'll still be celebrating the bicentennial with the Playhouse revival of Memphis, the musical, in January. And that'll be on the Playhouse on the Square stage. A new play, which was a Tony Award winner, which we will be doing its regional premiere by the name of Indecent, will be next door at the Circuit Playhouse. And one of the two world premieres, these are new works that have never been professionally produced, will be down the street in Theater Works, which is our small black box space, and that is called When We Get Good Again. From there, we have a myriad of shows, a lot of other Playhouse revivals, Ain't Misbehavin', Schoolhouse Rock Live, as well as Little Shop of Horrors will be on our season, and we'll be closing out the season with another regional premiere, Something Rotten, which is a musical very much based in the Elizabethan Shakespeare realm.
Well, how do you pick your productions every year?
A lot goes into it. We have a great administrative staff between our marketing department, development, our audition coordinators, and then our assistant directors and producers, all really tons of scripts hit our desks and we go through and read them. We try to have a good balance between doing shows that are recently just left Broadway or are still on Broadway right now, as well as community favorites. We always try to throw in a few of those because we have a great arts community that wants to see certain shows and wants to see them again and again. And then we try to make sure that we're living up to our mission statement, which is telling stories and using art to tell stories that represent the heart and soul of our community. And since the Mid-South is such a broad faceted community, we have rural areas, more metropolitan areas as well. We try to make sure that we're telling those stories that meet everybody's needs. Some of those are going to be edgier, face society with itself by using art, and then some of them are just going to be more fun shows that allow the family to come out and see them as well.
Mr. Blackwell, the Hattie Lou Theater is known for plays that show your inner soul. What productions are you putting on this year?
Well, the one I'm most excited about is personal. It's biased because I'm directing it. It's a show called Detroit 67, which highlights the beginnings of the Detroit riots of 1967. So a lot of our shows, or all of our shows, are from the Black perspective. So the ones that really help us to reimagine our multicultural community through that lens are the ones that really excite us. So for example, our upcoming Christmas show is called Urban Nativity. We all pretty much know the story of Joseph and Mary, and this is a modern retake on it, looking at it through the lens of what it would look like in contemporary society with Black individuals living within a certain community. So it's things like that that really always motivate me to go to work every day and work with these shows.
Mr. Blackwell, can you tell us about the history behind Hattie Lou Theater?
Sure. We are in our 14th season. It began as a community theater on Marshall Street with about 45 seats. After season 11, we actually moved to Midtown to become neighbors with Playhouse on the Square. And from there, we've grown into a 3-theater building. So we have 3 separate theaters spaces in there for us to produce. And really, it just came out of a need for reflection of the African American community in Memphis, not only to reflect themselves, but so that we can also present it to that multicultural community.
Well, Mr. Cox, you offer a lot of educational opportunities at Playhouse on the Square for both the students and the educators. Can you tell us about those opportunities?
Yes, absolutely. For our young theater, young actors, young audiences, we have our after-school acting program known as ASAP, and that runs along with the school system. So there's a fall semester and a spring semester. The great thing about that is that you can do that in your own school, and we will come and meet you there. There's also ASAP sites in our location in Midtown, as well as other satellite sites across the city. We also offer theater school, which is a little bit different than ASAP itself. ASAP always has a theme where kids can kind of learn from that theme depending on their age group. Theater school encompasses everything from acting to dance, music, vocal lessons, things of that nature, and we predominantly do theater schools in our location on Saturdays and some weekdays.
Well, Mr. Blackwell, how did Lou also offer educational opportunities such as young budding? What can teens develop from this skill?
One of the things that we really look at is not only educating, but validating and creating advocacy. So all of our programs with youth and adults is looking at validating your lived experiences. So what that means is people come out of different communities, come from different situations, and we are never going to say that you should look away from that. We want everybody to embrace their identity and then learn to move with that to become advocates for change. So all of our programs do that, and there's one in particular called Right On Speak Out, which is a partnership with the Memphis Grizzlies that really uses, helps high school students learn to use their voice. So it's an 8-month mentoring program, and it really, some of our students have gone up to the school board and presented there, and so they've been able to make certain changes at the city level as well as at the local level.
Well, a few weeks ago, you held an intergenerational Black Artist Summit. Can you explain what that is and how did it go?
Well, let me start by saying it went well. It was really an awesome opportunity. What it is we had actors from Memphis that have been around since 1960, some of the people who literally Hattie Lou stands on their shoulders. We had Rubio Gray, who was around in 1970 doing theater and still doing theater, creating theater today. These are people who laid the foundation for Hattie Lou to be there, so much so that some of them donated their costume sets to Hattie Lou when we first started. So when I say we stand on their shoulders, I mean that. But really what it is as young people, and I'm no longer young, but I still like to label myself that, we are always learning that we are not inventing the wheel, that the wheel has been around for a long time and we can learn from others so we can progress that wheel instead of trying to reinvent it. So that was what the Intergenerational Summit was really about.
Well, Mr. Cox, I'm sure that preparing for shows costs. Can you talk about the fundraisers that are held to help support it?
Yes, I most certainly can. We do 3 big fundraisers a year at Playhouse on the Square. The first one coincides with the beginning of our season. It's called the Great Wine Performances, and it's a wine tasting event that is also a trivia quiz. So you get little hints about the shows and the season, and if you get the hints right, then you can taste the wine. We also do the original art auction, where local and some national artists donate pieces of art for us to auction off, and all of the proceeds go back into the general fund for Playhouse on the Square. Those arts, we basically share art for art. So the artists give us their art, and then we get to share subscriptions with of our season with them, as well as we have 6 live galleries, art galleries in our theaters, and so then those artists are able to use our space to promote their work. And then we, the last thing that we do is the our birthday celebration, which is really big this year since it's our 50th. And in addition to a lot of things that we're doing a part of the 50th. The biggest one is on Saturday, November 16th. That night will be our 50th anniversary gala, and it's the first time that we're going big time, like formal dresses and things like that, at Minglewood Hall.
Well, Mr. Blackwell, you offer a lot of unique materials at Hattie Lou Theater. Where do you get those from?
Well, our CEO, founder, artistic director, Ekundayo Bandele, is he's always scouring the country. Usually he's out of town somewhere in New York, Chicago, DC. So he's always bringing back ideas that are successful at other communities. Things that aren't just commercially successful, but are successful for the community as well. So he'll bring that in, and then we'll sit down as a team and try and figure out how we could implement that and make those strategies work for us.
Mr. Cox and Mr. Blackwell, thank you both for joining us on the show today.
Thank you.
We have to take a short break, but when we come back, we'll look at exciting productions opening a little closer to home. Stay tuned.
On the 21st day of the month of September, in an early year of a decade not too long before our own, the human race suddenly encountered a deadly threat to its very existence. Witness the danger come to life when you see Little Shop of Horrors at the Poplar Pike Playhouse. Running October 31st through November 9th, get your tickets online at ppp.org or by calling 755-7775. Will you live to tell the tale? Feed me. You're watching the award-winning GHS-TV, a nationally recognized student television station.
Welcome back to Crosstalk. I'm Jamaia Chase. We're excited to see what's coming up in our very own community. Our very own Poplar Pike Playhouse is getting ready to open a new production. Here with me now to talk about the upcoming show are Jeff White, director at the PPP, and Kaitlyn Poindexter, one of the leads in this year's fall musical. Mr. White and Kaitlyn, thank you for joining us today.
Thank
you.
Mr. White, you are getting ready to open Little Shop of Horrors, which you are directing. What are you most excited for the audience to see?
Well, I'm most excited for the audience to see the amazing cast and crew that we have here at the PPP. They're doing great work. I'm so excited for just for the audiences to come and see the magic that will happen on the stage. And I love this show so much. I've been wanting to do this show for a very long time. So we're opening on Halloween. It's going to be exciting. So yeah.
Well, for those of us who don't know, what is the show about?
It's about 2 hours. Sorry, that's my dad's joke. I got no laugh, huh? Oh well. No, it's about a plant that is discovered by Seymour Krelborn, who is a florist. He's like an orphan florist, and he discovers this plant, and this plant requires blood to grow. It eats blood or drinks blood or I don't know exactly. It takes blood. And then Seymour realizes that he's got to keep giving it blood more and more and more. And as the plant gets bigger, it grows in popularity, and he becomes kind of famous. And then he starts to get more involved with his love interest, Audrey, and their relationship begins to bud. That was another pun. That was
great.
Yeah, well. And so they start to have a great relationship, but things get really complicated, and the plant gets a lot bigger, and the plant wants to start eating people. And then Seymour's got to figure out, how does he feed the plant people. It's a lot of fun and hilarious, and I think it's like the most amazing, fun, popular musical of all time. So yeah.
Well, Kaitlyn, you're playing Audrey. Who is she and what do you love most about her?
Well, if you take Carol Channing and Marilyn Monroe and you mix them together and take out what's most sweetest and most vulnerable, that's who Audrey is. And you just want to give her a big hug. And it's such an honor going after Ellen Greene, who is just a legend in the Little Shop of Horrors community. And I think people misread Audrey as just some ditzy blonde, but the fact about Audrey is that she is real. She has her real emotions, she has her real situations, her real ways of figuring out how to get out of problems, and her real feelings towards Seymour. And and going after Mr. White's direction, he's just so creative, and he brings out the best of both me as an actress and of Audrey as a character, and it's great playing her.
Mr. White, can you explain how both you and the students prepare for shows at the PPP?
Sure, we work really hard, but we try to work hard and have a lot of fun at the same time. And we've really focused on the ensemble this year in this show. I really wanted this group to be really cohesive, really gel real well, because I really feel like this is an ensemble piece. And I wanted the ensemble to be strong. So not only have we really delved into the work together, but we've played together as well. We've done some theater exercises and games and activities together to really help build that ensemble feeling. And I think it's been working. It's been a lot of fun, and but it's also just a lot of hard work. And Jamaia, you know how much we have to rehearse and go over things. But at the same time, I want it to be a memorable experience. I want it to be a fun experience. And I hope when audiences come, they'll have the same feeling that that everyone on stage is having fun and that they're having a good time as well.
Kaitlyn, how do you, as an actress, prepare off stage?
To prepare for this role specifically, I watched the 2003 movie with Ellen Greene, and then I also watched the original black and white version. So I took both of those versions and I kind of made it my own. Like I said, most people play her as just some black and white character, like a ditzy blonde, but I don't really see her that way. And so I kind of took my own emotions and I put myself in her shoes, so to speak, in order to portray a real story.
Well, Mr. White and Kaitlyn, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having us.
Theater is alive and well in the Bluff City. I can't wait to see all these shows and actors take the stage in the coming weeks. For more information on our programming, please check us out on the web at GHS-TV.org, where we are streaming live 24 hours a day. You can also check us out on Facebook and Twitter. I'm Jamaia Chase. From all of us at GHS-TV, thank you for watching Crosstalk, and I hope to see you again.